Hey YouTube friends, this video is on the topic of porn, and this is a subject that has been near and dear to my heart in a bad way for a long time. My dad sexually molested me, and he was heavily into porn, and that has caused me to hate it my whole life because I think it definitely leads to a lot of childhood sexual abuse. I also know that it leads to homosexuality in a lot of situations. I had a friend at church, and that was her story, was that, she found her dad's porn stash, and that is what caused her to become a lesbian. Because if you think about it, it's kind of weird to see naked people of your gender. Like, you shouldn't be seeing that, like, I don't know, I just think that with everyone, it will mess with their head a little bit. All right, so here's some good verses on porn. Matthew 5:28. I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lustful intent has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So that is the most important, pertinent verse on porn, is that, people think that if something's just in your head that it doesn't matter, but it does. And for some reason, Satan lies to people and tells them, that if you're not physically committing the sin, that it's okay, but it's not. Like, and Jesus talks about this too, that if you call someone a fool, then you're a murderer or something, and you're in danger of the fires of hell. So, you can't hate someone. Hating someone and wishing they're dead is pretty much the same as murdering them. Lusting after a woman and wishing that you were having sex with her, that's the same as committing the act itself. People don't see that because they choose not to, because they're deceived by Satan, but that's the truth. In God's eyes, God sees both the same. 1 Corinthians 6:18, flee from sexual immorality. Every other sin a person commits is outside the body, but the sexually immoral person sins against his or her own body. Do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you were bought with a price, so glorify God in your body. And people could jump around that verse and say, well, I'm not physically doing it, so it doesn't count as sinning against my body. But actually it does. Because, for one, you're poisoning your mind by focusing on lust. Especially, I know that there are people who look at porn for hours, and that's horrible. You shouldn't just, put up a chair in sin and just park there and sit there for forever. But that's what happens with porn, because it's really addicting. But I mean, in a way though, I feel compassion also for people who struggle with porn, because they do so because they're lonely. And I can kind of understand that, because I will say I looked at it a little bit after my ex-husband left. And yeah, I mean, it's partly something that people struggle with because they miss that. Like, if you were just in a relationship and it ended, obviously that could be a temptation for you, because, you missed that, and, I don't know. You want to see that, but it's still wrong. Pretty much under any circumstances, it's wrong. And that's the truth. And if you really realize that, the truth will set you free, and you will hopefully never look at it again. But, pray about that. Pray about that. If you're a Christian, pray about that, And really, it takes more than prayer. You have to have faith that you can overcome it, and I'll just say, in my own life, I recently quit smoking for the fourth time. But this time I've gone a week without smoking, which is great. And really, to quit any addiction, you have to believe that you can. If you don't believe that you can, then you can't. You won't, I love this quote, he who believes he can and he who believes he can't are both right. So it's whatever you believe about what you're capable of, then that's what you can do. All right, here's a good verse also on porn. 1 Corinthians 10:13, no temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with any temptation, he will also provide a way of escape that you may be able to endure it. And I was just thinking that this video could be your way of escape. Maybe it's something that you've been thinking about and you've been convicted of, but hopefully anything I say in this will further your desire to quit and give you the courage or the reasons. Another good verse, Hebrews 13:4, let marriage be held in honor among all. Let the marriage bed be undefiled, for God will judge the sexually immoral and adulterous. And a lot of people might think that they're getting away with it, and that really is why people persist in any sin that they persist in, because they think that they're not facing consequences for it and that they're not going to. But the truth is that you will, and it's really ironic because my ex-husband was apparently looking at porn throughout our marriage. I didn't know that, and he confessed to me, and I was shocked, and I was really mad about it. And the really ironic thing is that he was having medical issues in his man area. He was having swelling in his balls, and I felt like that was a direct divine retribution punishment from God for him looking at porn. So it was kind of hard for me to feel sorry for him or feel compassion, because I was like, well, you reap what you sow, and if you did that, then there's God directly punishing you for that. And it just made me also realize the severity of what he was doing. Like, why would God punish him that much if it wasn't pretty serious, you know? So, you know, God does punish us. For example, if you overeat, you most likely will get diabetes. I know I was enjoying pudding just a little bit too much in my second pregnancy, and I got my blood drawn after my second delivery, and I was pre-diabetic. And I was like, I think I was eating too much junk food, mainly just pudding. Like, pudding is like my Achilles heel when it comes to food. Like, I love pudding, but I haven't really eaten it ever since because that really scared me. So any sin that you do, there will be consequences, and it's not necessarily God punishing you per se, but it's just cause and effect. Sometimes, like, you know, if you smoke, it's inevitable that you will probably have some cancer symptoms at some point. If you drink, it's inevitable that it's going to mess up your organs. You know, you can't avoid the laws of, you know, the laws that God has put in place, that you reap what you sow. Psalm 119:37 says, turn my eyes from looking at worthless things and give me life in your ways. Worthless things. Okay. Now, some people could say sex isn't worthless, but it's not. I mean, I will say, obviously, it's nice, but it's not eternally worthwhile. Like, for example, there will be no marriage in heaven. No one will be having sex in heaven. So it's not like an eternal thing. And anything that isn't an eternal thing is essentially worthless. You know, sex has value mainly in the fact that it can create new life and you can create babies through it. Also, the only reason really why sex has worth is that it bonds you with your, you know, your spouse or whoever you're with, and that's good. God created sex so that we would be bonded to whoever we're with, so that, you know, our relationship would be more harmonious, because it is very common that couples fight a lot. No matter how nice both of you are, you're going to fight. But when you have sex, it really helps to relieve the tension that you guys may have built between each other over various things that you bicker about. So that's primarily why God created sex, you know, is to create more good feelings between you and your person you're with, who is hopefully someone of the opposite gender. And hopefully you're going to marry them if you're not married. Okay. 1 John 2:16, all that is in the world, the desires of the flesh and the desires of the eyes and pride in possessions, is not from the Father, but is from the world. Yeah. So watch out for loving the world. Yeah, don't love the world. This one is really the most applicable. James 1:14. Each person is tempted when he or she is lured and enticed by his or her own desires. Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. And that is the main thing that Satan wants to hide from you. Satan wants to tell you that your sin won't lead to death. Satan wants to tell you that there will be no repercussions or consequences for your sin, but the fact is that there will be. And there will be punishment in the next life if you don't get right with God fully. If you don't decide to walk the straight and narrow. And there can be punishments in this life too. Like, one example is Jesus healed the man by the pool of Bethesda, and he said to him after he healed him, he said, now go and sin no more, or something worse might happen to you. So that one verse put a lot of good fear of the Lord in me, that, I need to be careful to not sin. Obviously, we all know that we shouldn't, but that's a good reason to, because God can and does often strike people with a physical ailment as punishment for their sin. And, even if you don't realize that that's what happened to you, it might be. I'm not going to say every time someone gets sick or gets a disease that it's God punishing them for their sin, but I'm just going to say it's possible. So, we should maintain a fear of the Lord. We should be careful what we watch, and we should try to be as holy as we possibly can be. So I pray this video bless you all. God loves you. Have a great day.